Hello, this is Katie, and I wanted to do a review of my recently purchased Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. I will show you the chart that I found and that I filled out first. There, and then I'll do some coloring with these ones I've set aside. So I have my Copa chart behind this as well, and I will show you to compare the two. But I have, first really quick, I'm going to show you where I'm storing these. So I have my Copics on the far right, and then 4 of these bins are devoted to the Spectrum Noir markers because they are bigger around than Copics. So they take up some more room. I did not count how many I have here versus how many Copics I have. It's probably around the same, but this one is kind of similar to this chart, but it really just follows the spectrum, numbers, and it goes in order. So one of them won't necessarily blend with the one next to it well, which is the idea of this chart for the Copics. But these are kind of all the main sets. So I got a set of 12 6-packs. That was the first set. And I'm trying to think, it was probably, it said like the dull greens or something like that. So I can't remember exactly which ones come in those packs, but then there were also 4 or 5 more 24 packs. And so those would be like brights, lights, pastels, darks, and then there was like a nature pack. And so all of that together filled in this chart here. What I don't have is 2 of the burnt orange, 2 of the gold yellow. There's a small set of 3 called vintage blue, a set of 4 called dull pink, antique pink for 4 of them, 5 magentas, 4 pink violet, and then that would complete this chart. I'm assuming this entire chart is all they have out, but I am not certain about that. The only reason I can't really answer that for you is I even went to their own website and it said they had like 168, which is not true. It's much more than that. And so I'm not sure how updated or accurate their website is, but I mostly got these on Amazon. I got one of the sets at Michael's online. You can't buy them in store. You can purchase them online. It's because I had a gift card. Otherwise, I would have gotten that one on Amazon eventually. So I believe all the sets are on Amazon, including that first set of 12 6-packs. So just as a basic overview or recommendation to you, if you don't have any alcohol markers, or you have very few Copics, I would recommend getting this set instead of trying to slowly invest in enough Copics to have enough, color blending for you. Obviously, I think we can all agree the Copics are the best. I do think that these are very good in comparison. I would say second to Copics. All of those other sets, like the Cali Art markers or the Arteza, I can't speak for the Arteza 120 count. I only have the 60. They are coming out with the other 60 separately, which is nice. So if I do want to complete that 120 set, I can get that when it does come out. But just, usage wise as well, but also blending, I would recommend these. They're going to be much cheaper than Copics, not as cheap as 50 cents per marker with those Cali Art ones. I also got shuttle ones. I haven't gone into enough playing with them to blend different brands together. I do believe these blend just fine with Copics. I think I was coloring and I did reach for a Copic to work with it, so I think that works just fine. So I'm just going to say, as long as you have a chart like this and you know what it looks like on paper and you want to blend between either these in Copics or these and other alcohol markers, I believe they're going to behave the same. So the only thing, there's two things on the quality of the markers in general. One of them, out of the whole thing, I only noticed when I was filling in, because I did use every marker at least once to fill in this chart. I believe it was BP4, and it was in the pack that came from Michael's, so I mean maybe they were sitting there longer since they don't sell them in stores. That one was a little dry. They are replacing it. That's actually coming tomorrow, so they're replacing the whole pack. They don't sell them individually, so that's nice. I will have some backups of other colors. I think I have a little bit of room left in my storage in front of me. So I have another 24 pack of brights coming to me because one of them was dry. So that was very nice of them. I called them Michael's customer service and they didn't even question it and they just sent out a replacement. So that was very cool. And then another one, I don't remember which one it was at this point, but I went to go take the lid off and this part, this gray barrel came with it and had exposed like basically what holds the ink. I just put it back in and it didn't happen again when I took the cap off again. So, but I feel like I've done that to a Copic as well. I pulled and it came open and it kind of looked the same. So, one marker that I've opened so far has done that. And then only one of them was dry out of all of these. So I think that's pretty good. So the difference in tip between, let's say, a Copic that has a chisel nib and then the brush tip. This one has the chisel nib on this end, and the one that's marked with the light gray ring has this one. Now, there is a difference between, these are obviously two different colors, but the brush nib on the Copic versus this one. So this technically is more like a bullet nib. However, the bullet nib on the other markers I've been looking at or showing you are, I don't know why that was up there. They are pointier and harder than these. I find these, even though it's technically not a brush nib, I find them to be pretty soft and very kind of forgiving as you're using them. Now, some of them are softer and more forgiving than others, and others are harder. So it's not terribly consistent as to which feel you're going to get with these. Whereas the brush tip on the Copics is a consistent feel and texture and everything like that. So that's another downside to these, but I'm able to, work around that. And then the only other, I guess, complaint I would say is that compared to Copics, I'm just going to kind of overlap these a little bit. I feel like this has more dull colors that I don't know if I would use, or I can't tell kind of how I would use them. Now, there are some purples in here I have a hard time kind of working with. And I do have, just in general, a hard time filling in my purples when I'm buying Copics. I think that may be the one area that I struggle with Copics. I wouldn't say Copic struggles with it, but there doesn't seem to be as much of a range of purple as there are pinks. On this one, for example, like these three here, those don't blend. I don't know what lavender they think these are, but this is more like brown purple or brown. I don't know. It's like a brown purple. This one's super bright and looks kind of pink, and this one's very dark. So these are going to blend with each other. You kind of have to reach out and find something that this would blend with. Now there may be something in one of the sets I don't have, like vintage blue or pink violet, or maybe even dull pink, that would blend with something up here. but I can tell I'm going to have a hard time with the purples in this group. I guess I'm glad that these exist, even though it's called hydrangea blue, but for purples, those kind of help just being there. But there's a lot of pink and red. I also don't have dull pink. I'm not sure what set those come in. If this is 24, it might just be one more set. So there's 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, so there's 24 left. So there's got to be one more set that I'm missing. I don't know what it's called. Maybe you do. But I wanted to show you a couple examples of how I use them as well. So for example, this guy, I'm going to zoom in. I colored this one the other day with spectrums. I think it turned out very good. I don't think I have the exact blend that I used, but I'm going to use a pretty close one to color in this guy. And on Instagram and YouTube, if you haven't found Marine Simon and you want to start with Spectrum Noirs or any tutorials really, that's kind of all she uses for coloring. And so I would find her on YouTube, and then for Instagram it's Marine, M-A-R-I-N-E 23 Simon, S-I-M-O-N, and you can probably link to her YouTube from there. So what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to use CR7. I have CR7, CR8, and then I reached over to the DR section for a darker one. So I will color in the whole lobster guy. I already cut him out, so my surface area is a little small. I'm using her technique of coloring. She will go in, and I went out the lines there. Color the whole image with the lightest color, and then go in with, and generally, I went out the lines again. And they do have a blender pen, so I also use that to fix when I do go outside the lines, and it works just great. I think any blender pen and any alcohol marker kit is pretty good that I've used. So she'll go in and color with the lightest color. I would probably use, she generally uses 2 colors most of the time, but I'll go in with CR8, the next darkest here, and just kind of shade where I want. But really something about the small, you really only need 2, I think. So I'm just going to go over that with the DR3. And the handy thing about this is if you want to do videos or tutorials, you can do that. All the lid names are on, all the names are on the lids for these. Whereas if I'm using Copics and I have a V12 and V01, I have Copic Chow markers as well as Copic Sketch. And you can't show this, you have to, you know, hold it. But you're also holding the part while you're coloring. So this one I could set down like this, but I can't do that for all my Copics. So while I'm coloring in my videos, if I'm using only these, I can just set that down. In her video, she would just be setting down, you know, the 2 colors that she was using at the same time. But if you do videos or coloring tutorials or anything, then you'd be able to show the marker color. And I watched plenty of her videos and used it to kind of screenshot as she was going some combinations that she was using that I liked, so I could screenshot it because she had these lids sitting out. So again, some of these are just going to color with kind of a softer nib than others. So unfortunately that is not as consistent as the Copic brush tip. And I think probably as you use them, they may, you know, bend or break down a little bit. I haven't had them long enough to notice. But the more you use them, the more give they may have. I think they have enough of a precise tip, as long as you go slower than me, to get into, you know, small areas that people would prefer that Copic brush tip for. So I think he blended pretty well. I did use, let's see, I'm going to zoom out for a minute here. PL 1, 2, and 3. So this one here is actually how I colored this guy. I wasn't sure they were going to blend that well, but I colored the whole guy in with PL1. I did some highlights with PL2, and it was kind of not really blending well together. I highlighted with PL3, and then just kind of keep blending it out with PL1, and I think it actually turned out better. I just had to keep going with it, keep blending, and I think that one turned out okay. So that 3 color combo is pretty good. I'm also going to show you, I'm going to color in this little dinosaur guy, and I'm going to use LG, which is light green. Their naming is pretty basic. 5, 3, and 2. So I haven't done these ones together yet. I think I used an AG when I colored a dinosaur before. So I'll zoom in on this guy. So I'll show you how you can also color kind of the other way. It just depends on your preference. But I do this with Copics as well. So I've also done it this way, where you're just going in with your darkest color in the places you want that shaded. I'll just kind of go over the head. And then LG3 to blend that out. We can just finish out the arm on that one. And just kind of blend this out a little bit. With the brush nib, you can work pretty well if you go in circles too. Sorry, I think I said with the brush nib. With technically the bullet nib. Even though it's slightly more brushy than these other cheap alcohol markers, have considered a bullet nib. And I'll just go down a little bit with that one. And then we'll take LG2 and then go over all of it again. And this one is just awfully light, so it might just take some extra blending. And I mentioned I haven't used this color combo yet, so the LG2 may be a little too light for it. But you can also lighten up your darker areas going back over them. And I'm not sure yet if this one is just a very light marker or if it's drying out at all. I don't think it is. I think it's just a light color. And so we can go back in with the LG3. And just blend with that instead. So I think for this one, I have a second one. What I will do is go over the whole image in the light color first. And I don't think it's dry. And the only thing about the barrel on these is sometimes it's a little bit uncomfortable to hold, but it's not terrible. And then here, I can take LG3. And maybe put it in those same areas. I'll come down here a little bit. Blend it out again with LG2. So if you saturate the whole image in the lightest color, sometimes it can give you an easier blend. And that is how Maureen does her coloring. She's always filling in that image with the lightest of her blending colors. So I think just these two colors on this dinosaur would be fine as well. And if you just keep blending, you can get that to blend out a lot better. And then she also often will take the darkest, LG5. I'll have to get used to setting those there. And we'll give, you know, some dots in a darker color to kind of accent. And I like doing this a lot with especially lawn fun images or cutesy images. And it also kind of helps blend out or not show that blend so much if it isn't blending very well too. But I think those look cute. So basically these are going to be a much, I don't want to say cheaper, but in, you know, a price range much more affordable set. I think my problem with the other sets, like the Cali Arts or the Shuttle or the Arteza, like I said, I don't have the 120 set that came out recently. But my problem with those is that there aren't enough colors next to each other to blend. Like the Arteza 60 set didn't have enough browns really to do anything with. There were two that kind of blended next to each other. But these just have so much more. They have tans, earth brown, muted brown, red brown, brown gray, and then they get into other grays. So my hesitancy, I guess, I don't know if I'm saying that right, to suggest those other ones is because the set isn't really complete as it is to have enough colors for you to blend. Spectrum Noir also has refills. I will link you to the website below that I found that has, they're like little bottle refills, like droppers, I think, so you can refill these. It's really as simple as, I have some Copic refills. These are the only refills I've purchased. But I just hold the other end of the marker I don't use. So I'm sure it's the same for the Spectrum ones. I just use the chisel nib end and I drip and just drop one drop at a time into this end and then maybe stand it up or stick it in a box somewhere so it drips down to this end, and it's really easy. I just kind of eyeball it and fill it, so refilling them doesn't have to be a huge task either. And since these have refills for sure, I think it's a good set if you can't drop that much money, but you want a whole set with good color blends at one time, rather than, you know, building a Copic stash over a number of years. So I will link any pertinent information down below. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know or ask me down below in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.